To every weather guy that walks in here,
I
come
swear
on.
I have not said that to anybody in the last week.
Yeah, I knew it.
We love you, man, and we're glad to have you as our
I'm a fanboy. So Simone, I used to listen to this guy when he was on Z102.5.
Oh my goodness!
I mean, that stuff was funny. I mean,
well, you were a nice man.
Those were the glory days. I mean, that was awesome.
Oh yeah,
you're a good
so
man.
back in the '80s, you know,
Yeah.
before Simone here was born.
I know.
that is true.
She keeps us young and honest. James, first of all, I hate to, as soon as you come in the door to put you to work, but a lot of people are talking about this hurricane this morning, and I just right out of the gate here, because we're going to get carried away, I know we will. Hurricane Matthew headed for Jamaica and the Bahamas and Cuba. How does it look, and how does it look for the United States?
Well, first off, it doesn't affect us at all. If anything, it keeps us dry, and we got a drought problem.
Yeah,
we
need rain.
We have wildfires all over the place. So, listen, just don't be a bonehead and throw a cigarette butt out the window. I've seen a lot of that.
Right.
And that's what's starting a lot of these fires you see on the sides of the highways. And we're going to have some water problems because we don't see any rain here for the next 10, maybe 15 days. October is the driest month of the year.
Mm-hmm.
But the hurricane, I just saw coming in here, the pressure hit 940 millibars. This thing's huge. It's a Category 4. And this will be a humanitarian crisis in Haiti. We've had a lot of people have done mission work there.
Right.
And as you know, it's a very poor country, and the structures are not that well done. There's going to be mudslides. There's going to be severe damage. This will be a humanitarian crisis. Jamaica's on the better side, but even there, they're going to have some damage and power outages. But the real crisis will come in Haiti, Eastern Cuba, Gitmo, that whole region. That's a mystery because we don't know much about it, but they're going to have problems. And then the Bahamas. It's going to come right up through the Bahamas, and the latest guidance keeps it just offshore, just east of the Outer Banks. But it's a close call. It's too early to tell. If you live in Cape Hatteras, if you live in Cape Cod, it might directly affect you. It might not. It's too early to know.
I see. All right. In planning for you to be here today, Simone and I were talking, and I'm telling her about you, and I don't know what the ratings are, but I know it's astronomical when you're on television doing the weather. You're the go-to guy. There's no question about that. You must have 100 share, just incredible.
Wow. If I had a 100 share, I need a raise.
And you were called last week when I mentioned that you were going to be here. Somebody said, "Oh, you mean Mother Nature's son, James Spann?" I said, "Yes."
I think Monk had something to do with it.
Yes, I think so. But I like that. I like that title. We were discussing what is the longest you've ever stayed on the air to cover severe weather on television. What's your record?
And understand, we didn't do this before 1996. 20 years ago, everything changed. I went back to work for the old 3340, and they allowed us to do long-form programming. But the record was Hurricane Ivan. That was a big hurricane here in 2004. We stayed on television without a break for 21 hours.
Wow.
That's a long time.
Yes.
I mean, you have to have, bladders of iron.
I can't imagine.
It was. Those are long duration events. You start when they come into Mobile Bay. You finish when they wind up in Tennessee. So 21 hours, that's a long time. I mean, it's a challenge. But your adrenaline's running and you don't think much about it. But by the time you get off the air, you drop dead.
Now, I also was explaining the history of the suspenders, or trying to, before you got here, to Simone and to prepare her. And I was trying to explain how we gauge how bad it's going to be weather-wise by your wardrobe. That in and of itself is a little odd.
Well, that whole thing's weird. So I'm a weight roller coaster guy. So when I was young, like Simone's age.
You're a what?
A weight roller coaster.
I know exactly what he's talking about.
I don't know what he's talking about.
See, I get you on this.
So when I was her age, I weighed like 160 pounds. I was grossly underweight.
I see.
So I hit middle age and I gained weight. So I had to buy some new clothes. Then I decided to adjust my diet and exercise, and I lost weight, and the clothes didn't fit again, and I don't want to go buy any more clothes. So I bought those things to keep my pants up. And so
that's a good thing.
Yeah, no, you don't mean to drop my pants in public.
Public service.
So that's the history of the suspenders. And the reason you see us taking that stuff off in the studio, you guys know it. Simone knows it's brutally hot.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a measure of the weather severity, it's a measure of the heat and the stink in studio. And even with these new lights that allegedly don't emit heat, it gets hot in there. So you see me with the sleeves rolled up and the jacket off. It's mainly a function of heat, not necessarily the severity of the weather. But we are now cognizant that people do read that into what we do.
I thought it was some brilliant master plan.
No, but
you were just hot.
It's just heat.
But you can imagine if you're in there for hours on end,
Oh,
you're getting
yeah.
hot hotter,
Sure.
so then the sleeves come up, so people probably correlate the two with
They-
severe weather.
In a big way.
Yeah.
I mean, check out social media.
Yeah.
It's crazy what this has turned into. But now I got to ask you, Spann. You said you're cognizant of it now because of what it's become. Do you have to be careful if it's really bad? Do you have to make sure your sleeves
Yes, no,
are
no.
rolled up and your
I
sneakers are on?
totally. That's all I think about now. So if it's not bad, I leave my jacket on.
He's sweating.
Even though I'm sweating,
For
like
everybody, yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
just sweat is pouring
So
off
you're
of me.
serious. You really do think about
Right,
it.
because people read that.
They do.
And we
I
learned
do.
what happened here 5 years ago. We
Yes.
did deep social media study or social science studies
Mhm.
about what went wrong, what do we need to know? Because my background is engineering and science. I don't know anything about human behavior, but we've learned that people read what you wear, they read your body language, and they read your eye contact. So I'm very careful about my clothing when I'm on television during severe weather. In a district now, if you see my sleeves rolled up, it is big, bad, nasty.
Yeah. Get under the house.
That's the big, bad, nasty.
Under the
Yeah.
house, safe place, helmet on.
Right, because people read that. And if that's a little tool we can use,
Why not?
let's use it.
It may save lives. It
Yeah.
does save lives.
Yeah.
I want to get to a deep, probably the deepest question we're going to ask, and then we're going to go really light, fluffy, and old school, and play some audio, surprise James a little bit, perhaps.
Oh,
and
brother,
have
this show's going right down the tube.
have some fun. I just, he may have his sleeves rolled up before we're done here today. I want to know, on a very serious note, how the April 27th tornadoes changed you personally, James. I know you've talked about this before, but I'm interested in hearing you tell us.
You know, that day was our finest moment. It was our worst moment. The physical science could not have been better. We had 62 tornadoes in one day. Of course, everybody here recalls the big one that came through here, but there were 62 that day. For every one of those, all 62, there was an excellent warning. In many cases, you had 40 minutes to do something. And the death toll that day was 252. That is absolutely unacceptable for anybody in this state. The death toll should have been 30, which is a tragedy in itself. But if you study the people that died, these were precious people. If you read the Kim Cross book, What Stands in a Storm, you'll understand more about that day and the people that were affected. So we didn't know what to do. What else can we do? We provided 40 minutes lead time on most of these. There's not much else we can do. So what we learned, we're not as good as we thought we were. And I'm certainly not as good as I thought I was because of the lack of understanding of social science, human behavior. The warnings were there, people didn't do anything. So it has aggressively made us change to get better. So the next time that happens, will be better and the loss of life won't be so high. I am so stinking tired of funerals on my watch. And that's got to stop. And understand, the next time we have a day like that, I'll be at Elmwood Cemetery. You know, these things happen about every 40 years. But all it takes is one. All it takes is one.
Right.
Ask the people here December 16th, 2000. We had about 3 in the state. 1 came through here. It was in the F4. It killed 11 people. And again, those were precious people. So all it takes is one. So we're going to take the knowledge we've accumulated through social science work and be better the next time.
On a personal level, once it was over and we knew the ramifications of it, several days later, you know, you're home and James Spann, the human being, is doing a little soul searching, talking to the Lord. Take us there.
Well, you know, the problem we have now, it doesn't stop. For years and years and years, the big event would happen, we could go back and catch our thoughts. We could emotionally review everything. Today, it's different because of social media. It doesn't stop. You are on social media in our world 24/7. You don't. I've not slept since 1973. I mean, I really haven't. I mean, I used to be a good-looking guy, and look what happened to me. So after April 27th, there were these unbelievably urgent needs from people that needed help. And they were hitting, and Twitter was a little new back then, but I had about 30,000 people that followed me back then, including the state EMA and all these relief agencies. So these people that desperately needed help, and their phones were dying on their battery. They had no ability to communicate except for that. I would relay this information. I would hit that retweet button for days and days and days. So I never got off the grid. And I didn't talk about it because I didn't know what to say. I think it was probably about a month.
Before you could talk about it?
Well, about a month. I didn't talk about it publicly for 6 months. I didn't have anything to say. I didn't know what to say. But about a month or so, we finally took a day off. Our son played baseball at the time and you know, tournaments and all that. We took a weekend off. And a bunch of the baseball dads got in pickup trucks, and we got a bunch of chainsaws and went out in the country. People in Tuscaloosa had help. People in Birmingham had help.
Right.
But I think people that live in rural parts of the state are discriminated against. They always have been for a lot of different reasons. And goodness, there was great need up there. And we found a family in rural Walker County, adopted them, and we helped them build a house. That's what was my therapy. That's what healed me. And I went through all these phases of grief, of anger and depression. I didn't go down 15th Street for 6 months. I stopped at Alberta City. I chose not to because, again, I worked for Burt Bank at the little radio station on 15th Street.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even go down there until later in the year. But helping that family in Walker County was my therapy. And just having a good cry with your wife, and that came about 1 to 2 months later. And I still grieve. That day changed me. It has energized me. I am an old man, but I have more energy right now than I had when I was 30 years old because we're gonna fix this thing.
I love that.
We're gonna fix this stinking warning process. I travel all over, get to speak in different parts of the country to tell them what we've learned, but we've got to get better, and we are going to get better, and we're going to fix this thing.
Are we better today than we were then, or is it?
Yes.
I know it's a work in progress.
Let me give you an example. So in 2011, here's one reason people died. The false alarm ratio was too high. 80%. 80% of tornado warnings were false. Are you kidding me?
Wow.
That's insane.
Wow.
And I'm not faulting the Weather Service, but they were trying to catch every tornado, and we're not that good.
Yeah.
These small EF0 and EF1 tornadoes is like whack-a-mole.
Yeah.
They're down for a minute and they're gone, and we can't warn for those things. But they've reduced that. They've gone back to basic science, and the FAR, the false alarm ratio, has gone from 81% to 20% today, which means that tornado warnings really mean something now. That's one example of the improvements that we've made. And the other thing we've got to fix is this siren mentality. The notion that you should hear some magical air raid siren before a tornado. You're not going to hear one in here. No. Now, true, this is a radio studio, but you're not going to hear one in your house at 4 in the morning during a raging storm. You're not going to hear one in a church, in a school. You're not going to hear one in a business.
Absolutely right.
And so we have tried to get people to a 2-tiered system. One is weather radio, which is the basic. Everybody should have one in your house. And then have a good smartphone app, not a bad crap app that's most weather apps are like that. Get a good app that's designed to warn you based on the storm-based warnings we have. So we've moved in that direction, made some really, really good progress too.
Very good. You mentioned Twitter being young back at the time when the tornadoes were so bad here, the 27th. I read this morning, and real quick, I want to know if this is true. Then we're going to take a break, come back, and we're going to get personal with you, even more.
I saw Mr. Dubose, the big boss here, Saturday night at the football game.
Yes.
And, I feel we're not running commercials, and he might kill me. So
Yes,
we better get a break in.
We've got to do that.
Yeah.
You have more followers on Twitter and Facebook than any other TV meteorologist, I'm told.
That's what I've been told. I just don't know what.
So humble.
It's just some guy in Alabama. That doesn't make any sense.
No, it's the selfies. It's the shirtless selfies. You and Geraldo. That's exactly what it's. Right, Simone?
Oh, for
Oh
sure.
yeah, bingo.
Bingo. I think we've just nailed it. More with James Spann coming up on 95.3 The Bear. Don't move.